We're on a mission from God.
Wendy?
So I got that going for me.
Darling?
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Light of my life.
We enjoy your films.
I am a human being.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in real time, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today marks the 40th anniversary of the release of Herbie Goes Bananas on June 25th, 1980. It was written by Tait with characters by Gordon Buford from his book Car Boy Girl, directed by Vincent McEveety, and released by Buena Vista Distribution.
Is that a children's book?
Kind of. In 1961, Gordon Buford's novel Car Boy Girl was published, and lead actor at the time, Dean Jones, wanted to adapt it for film. He wanted it to be a straightforward racing movie about the first sports car, but Walt Disney himself was set on something else. The first Herbie movie was the last thing that Walt himself had a hand in developing. Starting with the title of the novel, Car Boy Girl, the film later passed through various equally bad titles, including The Magic Volksy, The Runaway Wagon, Beetle Bomb, Wonder Beetle, Bug Boom, and Thunderbug, which I actually hate the least, before settling on The Love Bug, which I hate the second least. But it came out in 1966, 2 years after Walt died. So you got The Love Bug, it was the 60s. You got to do it. The first film follows what is now a well-worn trope. A magical anthropomorphic car chooses a down-on-his-luck guy, actor Dean Jones in this case, as its driver.
Is it anthropomorphic?
Yes, I would say it is. It tricks him into a relationship, and they beat a jerk in a race. And this is what the franchise would become about. So the first movie was just called The Love Bug. And these are some notes that I made while watching it recently that reminded me of one of the sequels. Herbie spurts oil all over the foot of Peter Thorndike, played by David Tomlinson. This happens repeatedly over the course of the franchise, but the first time it happened was here in this movie.
We're still talking about the first one.
Yes, The Love Bug.
Okay.
36 minutes into the movie, Thorndike says,
I tell you, there's more going on here than meets the eye.
We're going to get to sequels that aren't official sequels later. The second film makes slightly less sense. The whole cast left, so we have the aunt of the driver's mechanic watching over Herbie.
Herbie was there.
That's true. Herbie does have an IMDb page for some reason. Herbie is protecting this woman from an evil land developer played by Keenan Wynn, and he ends up being really the only interesting person in the movie. Not only does Herbie being a car play no important part in the plot because there's no racing, but also random things in her house are also alive too, and that also plays very little part in the film.
Do any of the movies go into any lore about
No, but I
this?
want to do that prequel where you over-explain it like to death. Wouldn't that be great?
No.
No? Yeah, you're right. That wouldn't be good. In the second movie, at one point in the film, Keenan Wynn says that he is being driven bananas, which reminded me of this film. And he also steals Herbie at one point and brags to himself out loud about it before reminding himself,
except a 6-year-old kid could steal this one-cylinder hairdryer.
Maybe foreshadowing of the child stealing it later. The third film, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, goes back to the roots as Dean Jones returns to drive. Buddy Hackett, the first film's mechanic, is replaced here with Don Knotts, and Herbie's entered in the Trans-France race in Monte Carlo, but falls in love with a girl car during the race. And some jewel thieves try to use Herbie to smuggle their goods out of the country. That brings us to this installment, and I'll cover some sequels later. We start here with establishing shots of a bus moving along an oceanside road in Puerto Vallarta. It looks like everyone's sitting on the same side of the bus, so it looks full for the aerial footage. The bus pulls up to a bunch of street shops on the beach, and out steps a young Seth MacFarlane named Pete. It's not Seth MacFarlane, but he looks like a young Seth MacFarlane. And he's followed by he looks a lot like Seth MacFarlane, we all agree. And he's followed by his nerdier sidekick named DJ. The two of them share some things that they already know back and forth about how they are here to collect a car that Pete inherited, and that Pete is carrying all of the money that they need for the storage fee. A young pickpocket named Paco hears this last bit about money and wraps up a shoe shine ahead of schedule to follow them out of the scene. He offers them a shine, and when they shoo him off, he offers to show them Yeah. He offers to show them a good time,
Show you plenty good time.
and they tell him that it isn't in the budget. I'm not sure what he's pitching here,
You should
but they
also
seem to
rephrase-
know exactly what he means.
Yeah. You say he offers to show them a good time out of context sounds
Yes.
really weird.
But
Yeah,
that's
but I'm
what it
still
sounded
not
like in the
clear
context
on
of the
what-
film. Is he going
yeah.
to take him to a strip club or something?
Yes, it's Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
Okay.
He offers to escort them to the storage place where they plan to pick up the car. He gets them close and just recites the last few turns before they part ways, and then he ducks behind like a concrete barrier. And instead of what I thought was going to happen, pulling out the wallet and checking and see what he just won, instead he just snaps his fingers on both hands and points into the camera with a big smile and then continues running. So he's just celebrating his theft. We cut inside an office with a balcony on the water where Prindle is looking into a viewfinder type thing at a film strip with a map to an undiscovered Incan temple with supposed buried treasure, or Incan treasure, maybe not buried.
Just the whole city would be a treasure, but he's smart enough to know that there's untouched gold and artifacts there that he can plunder.
So basically some oil prospecting planes were flying over the jungle and spotted this temple in this South American jungle. And the location of the temple suggests the presence of pre-Columbian artifacts as well as gold, so they could make a lot of money off of what they find here. The finder just wants cash because stealing artifacts is a headache, and it's trouble if you're caught with them because they're considered national treasures by the local government. So unless it's Indiana Jones doing the stealing, then it's just plain old archaeology, but for these guys it would be theft. Pete and DJ collect the bug from the storage yard, and the guy checking it out says, Mr. Douglas, Pete's uncle, told them that this car won the Monte Carlo Grand Prix, which I can confirm. It did do that. Seems like, based on its reputation, they were expecting a sports car that they could enter in races, so they're kind of upset to see that it's a Volkswagen Bug.
But how did it get to Puerto Vallarta?
It could have swam there for all we know. It does all sorts of weird
Yeah,
stuff.
we do prove that it can do that.
Maybe it was
Just
already in
travel
a South
underwater.
American race somewhere. Who knows? When the time comes to pay, DJ realizes that his pocket has been picked, and they ask the guy at the storage yard if they can take their own property for a test drive. Like, they might just leave it there. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, technically, they would still need to pay him for the storage fee.
Yeah.
But
the guy says fine because it's his first day or he hates money or something.
Well, also, I do like how quickly Pete is able to pick up that DJ doesn't have the money and just comes up with this plan on the fly.
Yeah.
Like, the moment he sees DJ panic, he just goes, dang it.
Yeah. The temple raiders step out of their hotel in need of a cab, and Paco offers to hail one for them or carry their luggage or whatever. And Prindle just shoves the kid hard into his associate Shepard, while their third member, the relatively silent partner Quinn, goes to flag them a cab. Shepard literally kicks Paco into the street as cars are going by.
Yeah, oh my God. This one car doesn't look like it was going to stop or didn't know it was supposed to stop for the kid.
And he just rises and runs between them, very narrowly avoiding getting smashed. I'm sure these are all like stunt drivers, but it seems super dangerous to watch this kid dodging through traffic like that. This time he shows off a bit, juggling the wallet that he snagged before making it around a corner. He sits and he sorts through it out in the open, and he also still has DJ's wallet. So Pete and DJ, having confirmed that this kid took the wallet, are now driving around just looking for him up and down roads. And just by sheer coincidence, they see him, and not even all of him, just his leg is sticking out from behind some boxes.
I know that leg.
Yeah, and he's like, I'd know that leg anywhere. I was eyeing
aren't.
it real good.
Definitely aren't any other small boys in Puerto Vallarta.
Nope, this is the only kid. So they approach him stealthily, but the kid hears Herbie's doors creak and runs for it, and a chase ensues. So they run through a nearby house and end up back at the Bug, where Paco's just hiding on the other side of the car, and they split up to check either direction down the street. Paco squats in front of Herbie's trunk, which is in the front of these VW Bugs. When the bad guys finally get a cab, Shepard offers Prindle a number to reach him at and realizes his wallet's been snagged, and so has the film strip that was going to lead them to this treasure. Even though they've been following him on foot until just a minute ago, DJ is tired of running around and assumes the kid has skipped town already somehow. They notice him across the street and grab him just as he's about to drop their wallet into a mailbox.
Which is really nice of them.
Yeah.
I thought, because he only took a little bit of money. Like, he didn't take all of it. He just took a little bit, and then he was going to put the wallet in the mail. I was like, well, that's what you do with a lost wallet.
Yeah, but it's not a lost wallet per se. But yeah, they would conceivably get it back if he put it in there. But here they're able to get the wallet and the money back from the kid. But when they're yanking it away from him, DJ says,
Grab loose of that.
which is just a weird phrase. It feels old-fashioned to me, but I think that's what people would say when they're trying to get it back from him. He says, grab loose of that. Pete offers to spank the kid, which is wrong on a few levels. Weird that he's still so angry even though they got everything back, and also that he thought you're allowed to discipline other people's kids or that anyone should ever be allowed to pants a child in public. Paco leans back against the mailbox and flips through the other wallet, which he successfully ditches into the mailbox. Because there are two of them, I suspected one would wait with the mailbox and the other one would chase the kid, but they ditch the wallet and just chase the kid because they think he took the film strip.
But they don't know that it's not in there, right?
But the kid might have taken it out, so
I know,
they go after
split
the
up.
kid. They should have split up, but they don't.
Yeah.
Again, the kid is very nearly struck by, I think, the same vehicle as before. The stunt driver might have had a favorite background car.
this car had it in for this kid.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been ripped off too many times. He's
This
like, I'm just going to drive around
also
here.
anthropomorphic, and he's got another.
Yeah, there's no driver in it. It seems like the bad guys have La Policia on their side, and suddenly 15 cop cars are also in pursuit. Paco squats again beside Herbie, but then he sneaks away behind a large woman walking with laundry bags. When the cops interview the staff of the store that he disappeared into, they say they haven't seen him as he's peeking out of this woven basket near the door of the shop. So this woman seems to be playing along and letting him hide in her store. Outside the shop, Herbie opens his mouth, demanding a new child sacrifice. And Paco obliges. Herbie tears off down the street, sometimes at a 45-degree angle on his back wheels, and blasts past the bad guys.
Don't you
After
think
they
this
noticed the kid was hiding inside.
bouncing around in there?
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely concussed at the very least.
No, Kirby used his tongue to suppress him.
Oh, there you go. I forgot. This car
gross.
clearly has a tongue.
Just push the kid to the roof of your
Mouth.
Of your
Car mouth.
Well, see, like the that's what was really creepy in the second Herbie movie.
Herbie definitely has a tongue.
Yeah, is when Keenan Wynn is having that bad dream about all the different bugs chasing him.
Oh, God, the nightmare sequence.
They all have the mouths, but they all making like growling dog noises.
There's a pretty dark scene in every version of this movie.
Yeah, like that burned in my head as a kid because like this is actually really frightening.
Yeah. A cop helps the bad guys retrieve their wallet, but it turns out, yes, the film strip is gone. Then we move to the Sun Princess, which is just pulling out of dock. The car is being lifted onto the deck of this cruise ship in a big net, like a cargo net. And
Cargo net.
Cargo. A matte painting slowly floats away as the bad guys pull up. They intend to intercept the ship at its first stop in Panama. Captain Blythe regales dinner guests on the cruise ship about a time that he and his crew attacked another ship and raped their captors.
Wait, what?
He's using a weird pirate voice and telling them about the time that they stormed aboard another ship. And this is what he says.
Well, the booty was taken aboard the man of war, and the enemy vessel scuttled. The women were then turned over to the crew.
The select ones going to the officers, naturally. The wenches were escorted below, and believe me, there was no poetry, or by your leave, or how lovely you look tonight, madam. One got to the matter at hand in short order.
Oh, Jesus.
That is what he's saying, right?
This is a Disney movie.
Yeah.
What is happening?
It actually gets worse.
Yeah. I expected this character to be more of a villain than he ended up by the end of the film. But Aunt Louise hears this from a neighboring table and seems intrigued by his bravado. Captain Blythe finishes the story about murdering a boat full of people in what feels like a pre-Will Ferrell impression. He stabs a candle off of a centerpiece to light a woman's cigarette and then gets back to the carnage.
Where was I?
Well, the deck was awash with blood.
We cut to the other table where Aunt Louise and Melissa are perusing their menus, and Louise tells Melissa that she would like
that captain on a bed of roses.
Pete and DJ are seated at the table with them, and immediately Louise is trying to set Melissa up with Pete. Melissa uses the excuse that she has to study for her doctorate to avoid pairing up with him for this vacation.
Now, when Pete and DJ first enter, the maitre d' of sorts of the restaurant signals her, and she kind of like nods, like
to Louise.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch
and
that.
I'm wondering if like she said to him, like, if any two handsome young gentlemen
paid
come
them
in,
to come to our table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send him my way.
That is entirely possible. It sounds like something she'd do. But Melissa here is studying Latin American cultures, And the guys explain that they are here entering a car in the Brazil Grand Premio. It sounds like Pete is the driver and DJ is the mechanic. He says, like, he handles the wheel and I handle everything else, which I guess that's what that means.
I assume more his manager.
Oh, okay.
Kind of what I thought, yeah.
Well, I'm basing that he's the mechanic on something that happens later, I guess. But Pete is the nephew of the driver from the first and third installments of the franchise, played by Dean Jones. And Charles Martin Smith here is playing basically the Don Knotts character from the third movie. We move below decks where a man singing in Italian sets his lunch on a box in front of Herbie in the ship's hold. Just as he brings the first piece of lettuce to his mouth, a phone rings and he's called away. And then Herbie scoots up in his absence and opens his mouth, and Paco leans out of the car and just steals all of the food. And when the guy comes back, he's like,
Who's taking my chicken?
and he's like looking all over for it.
He like looks under the tomatoes.
Yeah, he picks up the tiny tomato slice and looks under it. But then as he's looking around for it, the car trunk opens again and bones are just flying out of it and landing on the plate.
Now, his first instinct isn't to think that there's somebody inside the car.
No, that's crazy.
It's immediately to, this car is eating my food.
But there's clearly just a kid in there. You would just assume there was a kid in there.
Well, or just even when he opened it, I don't know how you don't see a child in there.
Well, the first time it opens, he's standing on the side of it. So he's not actually looking into the trunk to see the kid sitting there. But then somehow, so he's convinced that this car is not a person, and he pries the trunk open to try and get his food back. But he falls on the floor and then turns around with plenty of time to see the front just completely open, and he would have seen the kid.
Yeah.
But he just watches the rest of the bones come out with a shocked face. And he goes and he picks up a crowbar, and he's going to just start bashing this car to pieces because it ate his food, when suddenly it just pulls away and starts driving all throughout the ship. He phones for reinforcements, and they all agree that this is worth wasting the captain's time. They surround the car and all jump on it, and it drives away, dragging like 5 men through this ship.
How far could it really drive? Like, this ship can't be that huge.
Yeah, it's weird. The first guy whose food got stolen calls the captain and interrupts him at dinner. The captain immediately accuses him of drinking on duty and hangs up angrily to leave.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I think so too. I would be angrier at whoever let him use this phone to make this call.
Mm-hmm.
They catch the car with a net, and they find Paco inside of it. They throw a net down on the ground, and when the car drives up onto it, they basically wrap up its wheels so that it can't keep driving. And they open the front, and they find Paco hiding inside, and it's like, oh yeah, this makes more sense. The captain calls Pete and DJ into his office, and he threatens them with a whip. He holds them financially responsible for all the damage to the ship from the car driving around. Paco, it seems, has been put in a cage below deck, which is as timely an image as can be expected.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable. DJ hatches a plan that he will talk to Aunt Louise about loaning them money to get their car back, and Pete is in charge of flirting with the niece for no apparent reason other than to just keep her away while...
Well, I think that keeps the aunt happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, are you saying that the aunt would know about the whole arrangement? Because I feel like...
Because she did know.
Yeah, but that wasn't their plan that she knew. But I feel like she would have given them the money for the car either way. They didn't need to be dating her niece.
No, but I think that she'd be more inclined to be favorable to them if they thought, if she thought her plan to hook them up was working.
I guess, maybe. Suddenly a Halloween party is happening, and this didn't work out too well in Death Ship earlier this year, but the captain is dressed as Admiral Nelson, complete with an eye patch, and I checked it's the right eye. He did it correctly. Aunt Louise is flirting with him dressed as Little Bo Peep, and the rest of the cast is basically just dressed in their own personal uniforms. So DJ and Pete have on, Pete's wearing like a racing gear, like one of those like fireproof racing jumpsuits, and DJ looks like he's wearing just a mechanic's outfit, which is why I thought he was the mechanic. Elyssa is wearing like a full-on explorer costume, complete with a pith helmet. She's out on the dance floor with Pete. He's making quick work of flirting with her, and he tells her that she's not like the other girls, which initially she doesn't take as a compliment. But he says, no, it's a good thing. You don't giggle when nothing's funny. You listen when I talk, and you're very pretty. And he proves this to us by taking her glasses off, blinding her. He later walks her to her room, and she thanks him for a wonderful night, still blind from having removed her glasses, and she kisses the blurry man. Back in their room.
She's like, he was handsome, right?
I hope you're handsome. Back in their room, Pete and DJ discuss the successful plan. Aunt Louise has agreed to pay for the car, and everything's going according to plan. I said plan a lot. Below decks, Paco sits in a cage on a blanket when Herbie rolls up to the gate. Herbie begins speaking in short honks to approximate words for what I want to say is the first and last time in this entire franchise.
Can we be friends? What's your name? ¿Qué?
He doesn't do this in the other movies. I don't remember.
Trying to talk?
Yeah. I mean, he talks with charades mostly, not with actual like it's just very weird.
Very BB-8.
Yeah. Paco asks what his name is and not understanding the beeps decides that Herbie is Ocho, based on the 5 and 3 printed on his hood. Herbie uses his antenna as an appendage to lift keys off of a key rack to Paco's cell. And then he somehow uses the key, like he puts it into the keyhole and turns it. Or does Paco do that?
Paco does that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he can reach his hands out and turn it.
But they had to do separate inserts of Paco getting, because he had a really hard time getting that key into the lock.
Yeah.
So then they just did a cutaway insert of the lock being finally unlocked.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, because there's no way he could unlock it
blindly from the other side. He opens the cage and lets Paco hop inside of him to escape recapture. Ocho pulls into an elevator and presses the button to go up to the deck with all the passengers.
Does he use his antenna again to push buttons?
I think he does. Back at the costume party, the captain continues speaking about capturing people from other ships, which you're not supposed to do if you're a cruise ship captain.
I mean, do you think he's making all of these stories up?
I'm sure he is, but I also don't know why he's doing that, because these people can't possibly believe that he did these things. But who knows? Maybe he's very old school. Maybe he's a vampire and he did these things. I don't know. Paco comes blasting through the wall in Ocho, and they knock over people and tables, and a giant pie gets thrown right in the captain's face. And he's not happy about it. So we cut right to Herbie's punishment, where he is being made to walk the plank. And by walk the plank, I mean Walt Disney Pictures dumped a full-on Volkswagen Bug in the ocean off the side of a cruise ship. Never to be retrieved.
This is very upsetting.
I hope this was the first take.
Oh God!
Because if there's multiple cars out there, that's not good.
There's all these Herbies.
But
at the bottom
in
of the
addition
ocean.
to it feeling just incredibly wasteful, it was a sad moment.
Yeah.
You were killing the car.
Yeah, and we get more of that later too, where it's just like, this is weird for like what's supposed to be a kid's movie that we're watching Herbie die. In the first movie, there's a scene where Dean Jones gets another car, like a sports car that he wants to race, and he's like, look at how pretty that car is. And he comes back out in the middle of the night, and Herbie is just ramming it into the side of his house, like just bashing in the side of this other car.
Oh,
and then he leaves, and then Dean Jones chases it on foot, and he finds Herbie trying to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, God.
It's super dark.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But here we're just watching him be murdered, so that's a little better, I guess. The captain shouts,
I herewith commit it to the sea.
which reminded me of Death Ship again.
Yeah.
We commit her soul, and we commit her body to the deep.
He throws the body overboard. The ship pulls into Panama. Doug, Pete, Aunt Louise, and Melissa are forced off, along with Paco, who's handed over to the immigration authorities. Aunt Louise says that anyone even remotely involved with the car has been ejected from the cruise.
If it hadn't been for that steward, we'd have been keel-hauled.
Which is another crazy dark thing that they used to do.
Yeah, you had to explain that to me.
Where you would like chain up your prisoner or the person being punished and drag them under the ship.
Yeah.
To their death.
And generally, the barnacle-ridden underside of a ship would just
tear them to shreds.
Tear you up.
It's ridiculous. But it's a funny joke here. The boys come clean to Aunt Louise about their plan, and Melissa overhears the last bit when Pete is asking Louise to break it to her gently. She pushes past them and says, "You meet such interesting types on ships," because she heard everything and Pete's embarrassed.
But I really don't feel like he said anything really negative.
I thought he said that he wasn't interested.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's negative.
That in a
but it's not like he said
disappointing for her.
No, but he didn't put it in such a way like he's like, I was only using her to get to your money. Like he was like trying to let her down easy. Like he was very apologetic in his tone.
I think what she's upset about is that he pretended like he was genuinely into her, but it turns out that even with the glasses off, he was like, meh.
I think he is genuinely into her.
Well, that's not what he's telling Aunt Louise, though.
Yeah.
He would have just kept going along with it if he was genuinely into her. But he says that he's not. He says, look, I like her. She seems like a really nice girl, and I hope you'll break it to her gently. Like, I'm done with her. Bye.
Because they're parting ways.
Yeah, they're parting ways. You don't have to. You both got dumped in Panama at the same time. You could get married here.
No, because they're on their way. They're on their way to different places. They can't stay together.
Where are they going?
They're going to Rio.
Why are they going to Rio? Their car's in the ocean.
Because that's where they have to go.
No, it's not. They don't have to go there anymore.
I think that's a good point.
Well, then where are Aunt Louise and Melissa going?
Both of them got kicked off of the ship here. They
But
were
where are
supposed
they
to stay
going?
on the cruise ship.
Right, but they have a final destination. And
Right.
they have the means to go there.
Right. And they could continue to go there. They could book another cruise.
Right.
They could book a cruise with these two guys, her niece and her niece's boyfriend and his friend, and they could go wherever they want because these guys have no plan now. Their car got dumped off the boat.
They also have no money to go anywhere.
Aunt Louise has all the money anyone needs. She's a rich lady.
All right.
Melissa's carrying $500 in cash in her purse. Someone tries to push Paco off to immigration authorities, but he gets intercepted by John Vernon, posing as the juvenile authority, and Paco says, no, he's not, and he kicks him in the shin and runs for it. We get this weird shot of Herbie floating through the Panama Canal, which draws the attention of the canal employees. Paco notices, too. Somewhere in the trivia, I saw that Herbie is actually the first car to pass through the Panama Canal. I assume by floating in the water, because I think lots of cars are shipped through this port. But
this would imply that the Sun Princess also went through the Panama Canal?
Possibly, yeah. But if that's the case, and this Herbie was the first car to go through this port, I'm sure he's also the last car to go through the port in the water, because why would another car ever do that? This marks the first of 2 consecutive movies that Disney released in which a non-boat pretends to be a boat. Paco notices Ocho in the water and swims out to rescue him with the help of several other adult men. They get Ocho to the shore, but Ocho seems pretty dead, and the men make plans to strip him for parts. Paco constructs a small burial mound around him and mourns his death.
But then he just comes back to life.
Yeah, as Paco is walking away, Herbie just chokes back to life, just starts coughing up smoke, and then Paco's like, all right, I got to drive you out of here before these people take you apart. We get a montage of them just having fun driving together under a song about friendship that ends with, I'll bet you a banana, mañana you'll have a new friend.
And I bet you a banana, mañana you'll have a new friend.
Either later that night or the next morning, I can't tell because we're indoors and it's relatively dark, but Paco is painting the word taxi on the side of Ocho. They're in like a shed. I don't know if they just snuck into somebody's shed and used their paint, but it seems like Paco's plan is to use Ocho as a taxi to make money, and he's surprised when the garage door opens to reveal that the bad guys found them somehow.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Just like, check that shed over there. They are there for the film strip that he stole, and he can't find it, and he doesn't have it, so he's suggesting that it's possible they got mixed up and ended up in Pete's wallet, or DJ's wallet. I can't remember whose wallet it was. I think it was DJ's wallet. But then they threaten to burn him with a blowtorch.
Well, Herbie.
Yeah. But at first it looks like they're like, I'm going to cut your legs off, kid. Like they pop up this blowtorch and light it. And then they're like, all right, we're going to chop your car up to pieces. But they don't know this car's alive. I don't know why they would make this threat.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like an odd choice.
They're going to sell it. They're going to sell the pieces, right?
He said they were going to chop it up into tiny pieces. Like, I assumed like smaller than resellable parts, but maybe.
I mean, I think the point is that they're trying to scrap the car.
Yeah, but they could do that with any car.
But then they let Paco go to get the wallet, and they let him go with Herbie.
Yeah, so now they have nothing.
Now they have no leverage.
Yeah.
He can just drive away forever.
That's true.
Because
And
Herbie doesn't need gas, right?
He does try to do that.
No, he goes to get the wallet first. He follows through with their plan as if Herbie
Not
is under
completely.
threat.
We'll get there. So back downtown in, I guess, Panama, Pete and DJ have somehow already secured jobs as waiters, and they're blaming the kid for all their troubles when suddenly he shows up to apologize, and he asks for Pete's forgiveness and gives him a big hug, and then he asks where the bathroom is. So Pete points him in that direction and then realizes that his wallet is missing again, and that Paco has disappeared through the back window of the restrooms. Paco escapes in Ocho, and instead of just bringing the wallet back to the bad guys, he drives right past them, and he gets stuck in traffic for a second, but right as he stops, Aunt Louise and Captain Blythe are getting into his cab from opposite sides. Unfortunately, in a Volkswagen Bug, there's only 2 doors, so to get into this car at the same time, they would have had to fold down the entire front seat, but somehow they're able to do that without crushing Paco. They get into the back, they recognize each other, and the captain wants to go to the Sun Princess, and she wants to go to some hotel or something. And so they're both shouting back and forth at their driver, who they haven't noticed is very small. And they continue for a couple minutes before they recognize not only the kid, but the car that they threw in the ocean earlier.
And here's the biggie. I think it's the same car.
And the chase begins as the bad guys start following this cab with Louise and Blythe screaming in the back seat. They race past Melissa on the sidewalk. She's standing with Pete and DJ, and she says, oh, they shanghaied them. Like, she thinks that Paco was, like, kidnapped Aunt Louise. And so she needs a car, so she runs over to a bus nearby and just stops in front of it and offers the driver $340 for the bus. And he kicks off all of his passengers, who are mostly children. It's probably not even his bus. He's probably just driving them for a school. And he's just like, yeah, sure, it's your bus, bye. Somehow the chase leads them all to a bullfighting ring, and I forget how, but the bad guys end up in front. So they end up entering the ring before Ocho. And they actually crash into the bull in the ring. They, like, nudge him in the butt, and it pisses the bull off. The Matador's mad because 2 cars just rolled into the bullfight that he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and it looks like El Presidente is overseeing this particular event.
Oh,
as
is
well.
he really? I didn't realize that.
Well, there's like a guy in like a huge uniform.
Interesting.
And I'm just assuming he's supposed to be a very
important person.
Yeah.
The Matador throws his cape over the rearview mirror of the car, and he walks out of the ring. And we see this overhead shot where the bull clearly runs full speed into the side of an actual car, which bothers me a lot because I feel like you could definitely hurt this bull doing this. But he flips the car up on one side, and the bad guys all climb out of it and run to jump over into the stands. The bull turns its attention on Herbie for what I would call a slightly overlong bullfighting sequence, during which the bull connects multiple times with the side of an actual VW Bug. Eventually, Herbie uses his hood to sweep the cape around as if he were an actual matador, and also to stop the dirt by spinning his wheels. Ocho pops up on his back wheels to avoid a swipe from the bull, and the crowd loves it. At this point, the bull basically surrenders. It's just done chasing him around in the ring. And the captain wants to be mad, but he's also infatuated with the adulation of the crowd. Yeah. He's like, oh, this is great. This is another adventure for me to tell people about.
And then there's this really weird shot of Herbie rotating in place.
Yeah. It's like a blue screen shot.
Yeah, but it's like we've already seen Herbie turn his wheels completely sideways to move out of a position in the cargo ship.
Yeah, he didn't need to just spin on the floor here.
Yeah, it's just like they couldn't have built an actual car just to rotate in place. Like,
yeah,
they've built all these other versions of.
Couldn't
this
you
car.
Also drive it in a circle? I'm assuming it's just a situation where they forgot to get it on set. And they needed to fake it when they weren't there anymore.
Also, I really get upset watching this movie, seeing Herbie in the condition that he's in throughout.
There were 26 vehicles used as Herbie in this movie.
Yeah,
really?
but they were
26.
But they were all painted up like rusted,
yeah.
with a few exceptions.
It's not real rust; it's all paint.
Yeah. But it's just like, I don't know. It's just really upsetting to see him all like messed up.
Yeah. Well, they fix him up in the other movies. Don't worry. I was expecting like a, like the end of Star Wars where the robots were all shiny.
Yeah,
at the end of the movie, but that doesn't happen.
Yes, it does.
I mean, he's not all shiny. He's still. Isn't he still rusty?
No, he's brand. He's like all new.
Oh, okay. I missed that then.
Well, we'll get into that because I have a really big problem with that scene too.
Paco and Ocho leave when they see the bad guys are headed for them again, and the captain and Aunt Louise basically have to catch a ride on Melissa's bus as it's moving through town, but the bus is constantly breaking down, and at one point they need a wire to fix it, and Louise asks a local for a wire. And when he doesn't understand her, she helpfully explains, it sounds like fire, as though he couldn't tell that those two words sounded similar. But then he tries to give them fire, and the captain is trying and failing to call for help. on a phone. He's trying to get a ride back to the Sun Princess because he doesn't want to be a part of this adventure anymore. The bad guys in a plane find Ocho driving down a road, and they just track him. Paco parks Ocho in what looks like Griffith Park. I'm pretty sure it's Griffith Park. And he steps into a bar, but it turns out the bad guys are waiting there to steal him in front of apparently complicit Panamanians or wherever we are.
Yeah, this time they're just taking the boy.
Yeah.
Who now has the wallet with the thing that they need.
Right. The bus breaks down again, and Ocho pulls up to Aunt Louise and the boys and Melissa and the captain, and they all hop into this tiny car. The bad guys, with Paco in tow, find the Incan ruins, and they're able to pry loose this large gold coin from the face of it.
Well, it's like they're immediately there.
Yeah.
They somehow found a place to land, and
then drove to it.
And then immediately found a building that had gold, and they were already in process of pulling it down.
Yeah, and it's like the size of a deep dish pizza. It's like a huge...
It's like a manhole cover.
Yeah.
It's massive.
They basically just leave this kid at the temple and take the coin and then drive away because they just want him to die in these woods, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly, Herbie pulls up with everyone, and they collect Paco, and he says that they stole the coin, and this is an ancient Incan temple.
It's not really a coin.
Well, he tells them that they stole some gold off of it. I would call it a coin. It's coin-shaped.
Yeah, but it's the size of a manhole cover. Like
medallion, is that better? What would you call it?
A disc?
Circle?
Yeah. A circle of gold.
A circle of gold.
It's like a tabletop.
Yeah. The Lazy Susan of gold.
I'll accept. Oh, good compromise.
Paco tells them that they stole the circle of gold and they head to a university to report the theft of the artifact. For some reason, they cover Ocho in bananas on the way there, even though the bad guys shouldn't really care about them anymore.
Yeah, and why do they go to the university? Like, I mean, I understand why the good guys go, but why did the bad guys go?
It turns out that the bad guys only go there to intercept them because they're afraid that the police, they're going to call the police on them.
Mm.
But wouldn't they have done that? Wouldn't that have happened anyway? Like, wasn't Paco going to report them to the police if he survived?
Because then all they do is tie them up at the university, where someone's going to find them and call the police immediately when they find a bunch of people tied up.
It's much more suspicious than a dead kid in the woods.
Patrick knows from experience.
Trust me, nobody asks any questions. Outside, Paco is just selling bananas off the car in the parking lot, and the bad guy who is a pilot starts up their plane. The bad guys are struggling to move the coin from their car to their plane.
The circle of gold.
The circle of gold from the car to the plane when Ocho starts throwing bananas at them. They're attached all over its hood, and it's just opening its hood and throwing hands of bananas at them.
And they're just covered in like banana juice.
It's real gross.
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable.
They're slimy with it for like the whole rest of the movie. Ocho won't let this plane take off and starts biting it with its hood. Like it keeps opening its hood and closing its hood and trying to like bite chunks out of it. Eventually, Ocho succeeds in busting off the tail and wings of this plane. Paco's friends successfully untie themselves in the professor's office, and the chase is on again. The cops, like a military team that were headed to the university, are now chasing with Ocho to follow the bad guys in this plane, like what's left of the plane, which is just the body and the wheels, basically. And they chase it down the road until it crashes into a roadblock. And even the prop falls off. Now there's like nothing left of this plane. As it tips backward, the circle of gold rolls out of the back, and the bad guys are all arrested. And we're back on the Sun Princess in the captain's quarters where Louise is dancing for him. And he says, any man of the sea who wouldn't want her rolling under him is ready for dry dock. But it's clear pretty quickly that he's referring to the galleon outside of the ship. We cut to Pete and DJ's room where somehow Ocho is parked in their cabin of the ship.
Yeah, there's no way the car could have gotten in there.
Yeah, but they somehow drove it in there, and they have decided that Paco will drive it for the Gran Premio because clearly Paco has some supernatural connection to the car.
And then they started up inside the room.
Yeah, because they're all going to commit suicide now.
And this is where I got really worried. I'm like, okay, well, now we got to get to the big race in Rio. because now that we've got all our ducks in a row, we can we're gonna see the big finish of this movie with this race that they've been talking about throughout the whole movie, right?
I have to say, this movie gets an unfair criticism. A lot of people say that it's not the best, that it's the worst of the Herbie franchise, and I disagree because there is no race at the end of this movie.
What?
Because the races are the worst parts of the Herbie movies.
They're the best parts.
I'm cool with car chases, like through cities and
so
fun
the
set
car
pieces,
the car
but
chase
the actual races are not fun.
So the car chase in Herbie 2, when they're chasing the old lady around while she's trying to get her grocery list in order.
Yes.
That was better.
That's
more
better
entertaining.
than the last 20
When
minutes of the
he
first
goes up the
Herbie
Golden
movie.
Gate Bridge.
Yes.
And then they're running up the Golden Gate Bridge after him.
Yes, because they can run car speed. We, of course, here we have the credits over the friendship song again, and that's the end of the film. Disney followed this installment with 5 episodes of a TV series, again starring Dean Jones, and then a TV movie in the late 90s with Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. And Matt Dillon, I think, right? Was the villain?
Matt Dillon was in Herbie Fully Loaded.
Oh, okay.
But in this movie, he's never actually called Herbie.
Just once.
He gets called Herbie once at the yard where they're picking him up.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah. He's reading a message from Mr. Douglas, which is the guy's uncle's name, and he says something like, Herbie see, Herbie stop, or something like that. I can't remember what he says, but he says Herbie's name.
You're telling me that this thing won the Monte Carlo Grand Prix?
That is what Senor Douglas he told me. He say he would have won the Baja race too, but his girlfriend did not make the curve. Herbie, he see it, he stopped. He no finish the race. Senor Douglas say, it's here.
And then the rest of the movie, he's Ocho, basically.
Yeah, but the guys, none of the characters actually call him that.
Right. Yeah, nobody calls him Herbie. And then after the Bruce Campbell one, we had Herbie Fully Loaded in 2005 with Lindsay Lohan and Michael Keaton. And that's the one that has Matt Dillon as the bad guy. Breckenmeyer is her brother. And
Nice.
And Justin Long is like the mechanic for that one. It's actually pretty decent. I didn't hate it. I think that one gets a bad rap too. I probably like it because it was written by Thomas Lennon and Robert Ben Garant, who are 2 of my favorite screenwriters. But that's going to lead me into some non-canon sequels. The first being 2 years after Fully Loaded. Another favorite writing team of mine, Kurtzman and Orkey, wrote a script that was then directed by the great Michael Bay. That's the first Transformers film.
Mm-hmm.
The first Transformers movie, I'm fairly confident, stole one scene beat for beat from Herbie Fully Loaded, which I think maybe even the Transformers animated series used a bug because bugs were cute because Herbie was a love bug. But the scene where Lindsay Lohan gets Herbie, it's her graduation day. Her dad is taking her to get her a car, which is the same way Transformers opens.
Mhm.
It's his graduation day. His dad is taking to get him a car. He goes to a junkyard / used car lot. And she's looking at all the cars and she's specifically avoiding the bug because she doesn't want the bug. And she sees other cars that she likes. And the guy running the place is like, oh, you should get this other one. And she's like, oh, yeah, I really like that one. And he's trying to gouge her on the price. And then the anthropomorphic car starts destroying all the other cars in the lot so that the guy at the junkyard will get rid of that car. And it's the exact same scene that happens in the Transformers movie with Bernie Mac, where the cars are all getting destroyed. I was just like, this is really too close. And to have come out 2 years before, I feel like they just borrowed this like whole cloth from Herbie Fully Loaded. But the rest of the movie has nothing to do with Herbie Fully Loaded. So good job on the rest of it, because I actually really like that movie. The director here was Vincent McEveety. He does a lot of Disney features. He did $1 Million Duck, Strongest Man in the World, The Apple Dumpling Gang Rides Again. And he also directed the previous Herbie film, Herbie and Monte Carlo, or Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. He also did a lot of Golden Age TV, Untouchables, Star Trek Original Series, Gunsmoke. And he came back for a couple episodes of the 1982 series, Herbie series. And later he did like Murder, She Wrote, Columbo, Diagnosis Murder. The writer for this was Don Tait, who also did a bunch of Disney stuff. He wrote both Apple Dumpling Gang movies and The Shaggy DA. Cloris Leachman was Aunt Louise. She's great. She was Ruth Popper in The Last Picture Show. She was Frau Blucher in Young Frankenstein. She's Gran in the Croods movies, both of them, because there's a second one coming.
She plays Granny in a lot of things.
Yeah. And then she plays Mama on Raising Hope, but she was not in my episode. Credit only for my episode. She also plays Gam Gam in Beer Fest, which is one of my favorite characters from her. And she's also the voice of Old Marceline on Adventure Time.
Yeah. I liked her in Bad Santa, where they keep thinking she's dead, and then she just keeps getting back up.
Which is kind of funny because she was an old lady in this movie.
Yeah.
She's still around and she's still hilarious. Charles Martin Smith was DJ. I probably recognize him most from Untouchables and American Graffiti. He's also in More American Graffiti, which I have not seen.
I mostly know him from Starman and the Gina Davis.
Is he a cop or something in that?
No, he's a scientist who's out who's trying to catch him. He's trying to catch him for good, though. And then he's really great in Speechless with Gina Davis and Michael Keaton.
Speechless?
Mm-hmm. That's the director of Tremors, Ron Underwood.
I don't know that one.
No? Yeah, they're both speechwriters for opposing campaigns, but they meet each other, and they don't know that they keep giving each other advice, but they don't know that they're like the opposing team's writers.
It's got a you got mail kind of thing going on.
Yeah. It's really wonderful. It's got Christopher Reeve and like I said, Charles Martin Smith is in that.
You said Ron Underwood directed?
Yeah, I believe so.
I like him. We met him at that Tremor screening.
Yes, we did.
Charles Martin Smith was also the vice president in Left Behind 3.
Yeah, Ron Underwood, Speechless.
Cool. Did Brent Maddock write it? Because I know he works with Ron Underwood
Robert
a lot.
King, who I don't know
that one. John Vernon was Prindle. He's obviously Dean Wormer in Animal House and reprised the role for 13 episodes of Delta House, the TV show based on Animal House, which had a surprising number of the cast come back from the movie. I didn't realize. I mean, obviously, you don't have Belushi.
But D-Day.
I didn't realize
was on
there
the
was
show,
a
right?
TV show for that.
Yeah, it's got Bruce McGill. It's got Stephen Furst, a couple other guys. He's also the mayor in Dirty Harry. He's also the voice of Rupert Thorne on Batman the Animated Series. And he played Dave Ryerson in The Gauntlet, Season 1, Episode 4 of MacGyver. Stephen W. Burns was Pete. This was his second to last film before Stryker in 1985. And very tragically, he was injured in a car accident and infected with HIV by an emergency blood transfusion and died of complications from AIDS in 1990. So that's sad.
I hope that the car accident had nothing to do with this movie.
No, it didn't, because he did a movie in 1985. So,
well, just because you get in a car accident doesn't mean you can't do another movie.
Yes, it does. There's a rule. Elyssa Davalos played Melissa. She's Miss Millie Gaskill in The Apple Dumpling Gang Rides Again with the same director and writer. And she was also Nikki Carpenter.
That's right.
On the MacGyver series. She's the closest thing to a love interest that he ever had on the show, like long-term love interest, other than Penny Parker's more of a sister character.
Yeah, but she also played a short-lived character,
right, in the same season. And at the beginning of the first season, it was a 2-part episode called Lost Love. She played a character named Lisa Kohler.
Mm-hmm.
And then that character, I think, died or left. And then they brought her back as this other character. Joaquin Garay III played Paco. His dad was actually the voice of Panchito in The Three Caballeros. And as an adult, he has worked a lot with improv teams in the Los Angeles area, including the Groundlings and Improv Olympics. His daughter has continued the Disney tradition as the main character of the Disney Plus series Diary of a Future President, which I see constantly. It's like on the front page of Disney Plus right now. And we also had a chance to sit down with him and talk about his experience working on the film.
Oh, what?
What?
Why don't you guys tell me about these things?
So why don't we play that for you now? Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, first of all, I guess I wanted to ask, what was your process for getting this role?
Wow. Well, I actually started acting in 1973. So by 78, when I auditioned for this, I had been working a long time. A lot of people think that was my first job or one of the first, but by then I, kind of a seasoned child actor.
How old were you when you started then?
Oh, I was 5 years old.
Wow.
I was born in 68. So I was 5 in 73. I was on the show called, it was a Bill Cosby variety show.
Okay.
On Channel 4, NBC, and I was just one of the kids on that show. That was my first job. But by the time I auditioned for Herbie, I was 10. And really, it was just another, the agent got the breakdown, sent my picture in, and I was called in. There was about like 500 kids, 500 boys.
Oh, wow.
At the beginning. And I went in and auditioned, call back. We had narrowed down to a few kids. And then at the end, we did a screen test. The funny thing about that is that I was on another show called Via Alegre, which was a bilingual children's show in the 70s.
Okay.
And it started in 70 and it ended in 80. But I was on that show from 75 to 80. And on that show, we were a bunch of kids. And one of the boys, his name is David Yanis, actually was the last kid that screen tested against me. So we knew each other. We were friends. It just so happens that we were the last two boys, and we did screen tests at Disney Studios, and I booked it, and he didn't. So
wow,
yeah.
Had you seen the earlier Herbie movies?
Oh yeah, by that time, I mean, one of my favorite movies growing up was Herbie the Love Bug, the first one.
Oh, okay.
Herbie Rides Again, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo were great, but Herbie, the first one is my favorite. But by then, yeah. Big fan of Disney and Herbie, of course.
Yeah.
My dad being one of the Disney legends.
Right.
For voice. For my dad was did you know my dad was
yeah, he's Panchito, right?
Right. So, big Disney fan by then. So
that's awesome.
Very excited to work with Herbie.
When I was looking through the shooting locations for the film, it looks like it was kind of split between Southern California and then a bit in Mexico and a very small bit of it in Panama.
Yes.
Did you travel a lot for the film?
Oh, yeah. I think it's different now, but, back in those days, I think, especially the pre-Eisner, it took a long time to make a film, 3 or 4 months.
Sure.
Nowadays, they do it in 30 days, everything's so much compressed. But, we traveled a lot. And not only that, my mom, my dad, and my little brother, Ricky, who's 7 years younger than me, they all went along with me. So, we went to Mexico, Panama.
So you had an entourage with you.
I did. We did have an entourage. But they all came along, so it was kind of fun, kind of a family trip work,
I also noticed looking through some of the locations, the climax of the film where the plane is being destroyed was actually filmed in Camarillo, which is actually
Camarillo.
That's where we're recording this podcast right now.
Oh my gosh.
I grew up in Camarillo, so it was just funny to notice
it's a retreat or a seminary or something, right?
Right. I think the land has all been torn down for some kind of development now, but that's what it was at the time. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
In the Puerto Vallarta scenes, it seems like you're getting shoved around a lot, very close to moving cars. How carefully was that traffic coordinated?
Well, you know what? Again, very interesting. I've been at this so long now that I worked in the industry when it wasn't very safe, honestly. Sure. And I always say pre-Twilight Zone movie.
Yes.
Because after that, when those two children got killed and Vid Moro by the helicopter, I think things changed a great deal. But my whole career as a child actor before that, we took a lot of risks, not only in Herbie, but, I did Westerns and I did, I was on a show called Code Red about firemen. I got lit on fire.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So those things you're watching, we had a great stuntman, of course, Buddy Joe Hooker, who is, I think he's the president of Stunts Unlimited now. But he's a very famous stuntman, and he was the coordinator, and he and I worked a lot together because he drove the car, the special car, so to make it look like it was driving itself.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the back seat. That's a whole other story. But it was I think it was more dangerous than it would be now. My daughter has been an actress for a long time, so I've seen that things have changed a great deal,
Yeah,
so
that's good. It's progress.
Yes, for sure. But it was fun. I didn't, you tell me what to do and I do it. I was a kind of child actor, so I don't know. It was fun. So
what was it like working with Harvey Korman and Cloris Leachman?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course, both legends.
Yeah.
Both very funny comedians, which that's my forte is comedy.
Yes.
And, we're growing up watching the Carol Burnett show. Harvey was one of my favorite actors. So it was a dream come true, really. I mean, when you get to work with somebody that you idolize and you look up to.
Yeah.
And of course, she's been a fine actress, but I wasn't really a fan of hers as much as I was Harvey.
Sure.
He and he taught me a lot during that shooting about improv, about comedy, timing. and we were friends after. So after the shooting, we stayed friends for a long time. Yeah.
Any other fun recollections from your time on the set?
I've always enjoyed being on a set. My wife, that I've been married to for almost 27 years now, says I was either on a set growing up or in a restaurant, because my parents owned a restaurant.
Okay.
So, I was really at home on set, and especially at Disney Studios, because again, this is a long time ago, 78, 79. I probably shouldn't have, but I sneaked around the studio and saw things that I probably shouldn't have seen or been. My daughter's very, very, she likes to follow the rules, and she's very, by the book. So we'll be on at a studio a lot. Maybe she's auditioning, and I'm like, hey, let's walk over here and go in the studio, see what's in there. And she said, no, you can't do that. So I was the opposite. I snuck around and saw stuff that I probably shouldn't have. So that was a lot of fun for me. Growing up as a child actor, I obviously loved it. So I loved just being on set, honestly. But watching, how they did, because they had 27 Herbies. I don't know if you knew that. But
yeah.
In those days, again, I sound like an old man, but in those days, everything was mechanical. There was really no CGI, blue screen. But so everything, every car had its own specialty, and that's why they had so many.
Yeah.
So it was fun watching them do that.
Did you ever see the Herbie Fully Loaded?
I did.
What did you think of that one?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There was some kind of back and forth for me to try to be in it as a cameo, but that didn't work out.
Oh, okay.
At the beginning, you see like a flash. It looks like they dressed a child in my outfit.
Oh, really?
If you remember the movie at the beginning, it's like kind of like newspaper stuff.
Yeah, the montage of all the previous films.
And I'm in there, or my character, I guess.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I still love Herbie to this day, and seeing him on the screen was great. It was different than what I was used to, but that's what happens when things get redone or revisited.
Yeah, but I was disappointed, like you said, to not have the practical visual effects for the car, that they used so much CG for it.
Right.
Because you like seeing it happen.
It's a different world,
Yeah. And
I love Michael Keaton.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just so you know.
Yeah, everybody does.
Whatever he's in, I love watching it.
Yeah.
I don't care. So yeah, so that was a plus.
I know your family has all kinds of Disney connections, with your father having been Panchito. Your daughter is obviously on the Disney Plus show, The Diary of a Future President.
That just got picked up for a second season.
Did it? That's great.
Yep.
I just wanted to say I watched a couple episodes to prepare for this with my daughter, and she was totally into it. She was.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Really?
So
how old's your daughter?
She's 6 right now. She's gonna be 7 soon, but she was totally on board with the story, and your daughter's doing a great job on there.
Well, good. Thank you. I'll let her know. She'd be very happy to hear that.
Was there anything else that you or Carmina have coming up soon that you might want to plug on the show?
I have a film coming out. I have a small part. It's called Shadows.
Okay.
It's kind of a action movie. I play a low-level drug dealer. And for this part, I really I did a lot of prepping. I gained 25 pounds, stopped working out. I shaved my head, so I look balder.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to come out soon. I hope. I mean, in this new world, we were going to have the premiere in August. So
right.
Who knows what's going to happen? So I don't know if it's going to go straight to a platform, but that's a movie that I'm in, that I'm doing. Carmina, of course, is we're in negotiations now for her second season.
That's great.
Diary of a Future President. She's also on Pen 15.
Oh, okay.
That season, she did, I think, one episode. She just finished The Connors, and she did the second to last episode of that. She was one of the few ever to be. They normally only use their cast. They don't get other actors to come in.
Sure, yeah.
So she's one of the few to ever have been cast outside the original cast. So that was fun.
That's awesome.
And it was great meeting, of course, John Goodman and all the cast.
Oh, amazing. Of course, yeah.
And Alexis and Katie, she's on that too. The exact specifics of that one, I don't know. Shame on me, but and I don't know if you knew this too, but from Facebook, but I was at January. I started making a documentary about my father.
Oh, okay.
And his career and his life, and it is called The Mexican Tenor, and it's all about his career and his life, and of course Disney is in it.
Of course.
The Three Caballeros. So I'm working on that now. Again, it was put on pause because of what's happening.
Right.
And then I'm always doing improv shows. I'm doing stand-up. trying to keep busy, auditioning.
Sure. I also wanted to ask, these are some non-canon theories that I had.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on my theory that the Herbie movies and the Transformers movies take place in the same universe?
Wow.
Because we have the Volkswagen Bug that starts that movie.
Right.
I think it's just Bumblebee.
Yeah. I never thought about it.
I also noticed when I was doing my IMDb hunting, it looks like you have a stepsister named Linda.
Yeah, Linda Garay, uh-huh.
And she appeared in a movie called Mother Jugs and Speed.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. My dad took me to see it, which I probably shouldn't have gone to see it, but yeah, she played a pregnant woman.
Well, my dad worked on that movie. He was an advisor because he was a EMT with Los Angeles.
Oh wow, what a small, I'm telling you, what a small world, huh?
Well, I really appreciate the time that you've shared with us today.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I always enjoy talking about my career, and especially Herbie Goes Bananas, because it was a special time for me.
Harvey Korman was Captain Blythe. He was Hedy Lamarr in Blazing Saddles.
Not Hedy, it's Headley.
He plays Count de Money in History of the World Part 1.
De Monet. Monet, say it. Monet. Monet.
He's also the president in Jingle All the Way, which when we were reviewing Holy Moses, we were like, because Lorraine Newman has the credit of First Lady, and we were like, is she actually the First Lady? I don't remember the president in there, but it's in a Turbo Man episode that the president shows up. So him and Lorraine Newman were the president and First Lady in Jingle All the Way. And he's also the voice of the Great Gazoo on the Flintstones.
I mean, regular on the Carol Burnett show. He was he's a legend.
Richard Jaeckel plays Shepard. That was the pilot of the three bad guys. He plays Charlie Prince in the original 3:10 to Yuma. He's George Fox in Starman with DJ, and he's also a character in Bloodsong, which is that movie we mentioned in our Defiance review that Luca Brasi wrote about a serial killer who's trying to kill a girl who took his blood. Alex Rocco was Quinn. That's the quiet, darker-haired guy of the bad guy team. He played Mo Green in The Godfather. And he's Jake in The Stuntman, which is right around the corner for us, just a couple episodes down the line. Vito Scotti played Armando Moccia. That's the guy that was trying to eat his food before the car ate it. He plays Nazarene in Godfather. He's also the Italian cat in The Aristocats. And he played an Italian delegate in The Nude Bomb for us earlier this year. Jack Perkins is credited as Loud American. I don't know who that would be.
Any American.
Yeah. But he was the drunk convention goer in the elevator in Happy Hooker with the big bulgy eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And Herbie is credited as itself on IMDb. Someone made a IMDb page for Herbie, which unfortunately it has all the films and TV show credits you would expect. And then one credit you wouldn't. Sea Grazed Gmod Shorts, a fan-made web series that also stars Sonic the Hedgehog, Spyro, Spider-Man, Mega Man, and the Iron Giant. Also the Orange Inkling Girl. It's just like some dumb YouTube video that a guy made an IMDb page for, and because it had a CG model of Herbie in it, he put it on Herbie's IMDb page.
I hope he doesn't get sued.
No, he won't get sued. It's just going to get taken down.
I also wanted to bring up Fritz Feld, who played the Chief Steward. He is a weird character actor who's mostly known for playing Mater D's.
Oh, weird.
He played the Mater D in the second Herbie movie, and when Herbie drives to the restaurant.
Yeah,
he's known for doing this thing with his mouth where he pops. He throws his hand in his mouth and pops. He does it in every film that he's in.
And when he does it in this movie, he like frightens the passenger.
Yeah. He also most notably does it in History of the World, another Harvey Korman connection, in which when Mel Brooks as Comicus is working at the restaurant where they do the Last Supper bit, and he's like the maitre d' of the restaurant who's telling him to push the mulled wine.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring him up because he's just known for playing maitre d's
and popping his mouth.
Yeah.
Interesting. This movie was all right. It had a bad rap, so going in I expected it to be worse. But having seen all of the Herbie movies now over the course of a week, I think that this is not the worst one of them. I also appreciated that so much of it was shot on location, where the first two movies, they take place in San Francisco, and there is some footage in San Francisco, but so much of it is soundstage, even exteriors, that it's just very frustrating to watch. And at least in this film, whenever they were outside, they were actually outside. Jess, up or down?
Like you said, it wasn't terrible. There was a lot of fun moments, but I don't think I'm going to go out and recommend anybody specifically watch this, so I guess that means it's a down for me.
Yeah, I think for me as well that this is not a must-see title. Like I said, it was fine. It's not as bad as some of the Herbie movies, but again, it's not something that you have to go out and check out.
I agree. It's going to be a down for me. As much as I love Herbie, and I do really like the Herbie movies as a whole.
Yeah.
Like I think that it's a really fun concept that has never really. It's always been true to the concept.
Yeah.
Like Herbie has never gone to space or learned to talk or like the concept.
Even though he tried here.
Yeah, but the concept of Herbie has always been, and I don't in this one I don't even like that his eyes move.
Yeah, and he does some goofy stuff.
Yeah.
His headlights.
Yeah. I don't like that happens.
In Herbie Fully Loaded, he does some moves that look like kind of like The Mask a little bit, where you have a fully CG car replacing him and he like stretches out and does a bunch of crazy stuff behind somebody. And that bothered me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I like that I felt like it was a real car in the first few movies.
Well, because is it this the first one where he gets cut in half, right? And he comes in first and third.
Yeah. Yes.
So I like that they haven't done anything too crazy with Herbie, but it's still going to be a down.
Yeah. Letterboxd, what are we looking at, Richard?
I think I'm going to put this between Midnight Madness and The Nude Bomb.
Okay.
I have it just above Holy Moses and just below Humanoids from the Deep.
Okay. I am putting this just above Windows and just under Bronco Billy. I think that's everything for this one. If you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share with us, we're Vintage Video Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Letterboxd, or as I've said before, you can find each of our full movie rankings for the year. We can also be found at vintagevideopodcast.com. Please consider rating us on iTunes to help people find the show, and if you take the time to leave us a review, we will thank you personally in an upcoming episode. If you're feeling especially generous, you can support the show through patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing The Last Flight of Noah's Ark, which IMDb describes like so. When a plane carrying various animals makes a forced landing on a desert island, the only chance to escape is to convert the plane into a boat. We leave you now with the trailer for The Last Flight of Noah's Ark.
Say hello to Noah Dugan. Professional pilot, professional loser. Noah Dugan, loser, making another getaway.
What the hell did I get into?
You shouldn't curse in front of ladies.
Now look, kid, don't you tell me how to talk.
Watching his luck change from bad to worse in The Last Flight of Noah's Ark.
We're running out of gas. Boeing B-29, Mayday, Mayday. Hold on!
The war is over.
The men's civilization forgot, gambling on a long shot with Noah Dugan.
Make a boat out of what?
Out of rain. A daring escape from an uncharted island, challenging the sea with an impossible voyage. Against all hope, against Noah Dugan's luck. Elliot Gould.
When the hell are you gonna get through that thick skull of yours to do what you're told?
Geneviève Bujold. Ricky Schroeder.
I'm sorry.
Lost 2,000 miles at sea. Incredible drama and adventure, as only the Disney cameras can bring to the screen. The last flight of Noah's Ark.